My guest today on Over a Coffee at the Office Cafe in Brussels is Ska Keller, co-chair of the Greens in the European Parliament. We talk about migration and the leadership crisis stalking Europe. The sense of job creation in Europe, which your party is very concerned about, do you have confidence that Europe's moving in the right direction with job creation? Do you think that Europe's youth can see a way forward, that youth unemployment is finally edging downwards, or are we going to see a resurrection of this beast of unemployment in the near future again?
Well, the youth unemployment is still terribly high. I mean, in Spain, in Greece, it hasn't gone down very much, not at all. So I don't think that we're yet there. I also don't see so many initiatives yet coming from the European Union. I mean, we have the investment plan, which I think is good, even though we have a lot of problems with where the money goes and how it's being leveraged and everything. But let's say overall, investment, first of all, is good, but it really needs to be done in a smart way. And so that really we create jobs that are not just here for, let's say, 5 years and then it's bye-bye.
Quality jobs.
Quality jobs, but also long-lasting jobs. So, for example, if you start now with investing in, let's say, fossil fuels, then you know that this is not going to last longer than 5 or 10 years. So rather to do something else, to look at, for example, care sector, which I think is a thing that will stay with us and which is very difficult to outsource somewhere else, as well as renewable energies, education, all of those things. That would be a smart way to invest really into the future. And of course, there's a lot of things that cannot be done from Brussels. I mean, anyway, job creation is something that's not so easy to do as such, but we need to give member states also the possibility to do so. And that is, again, where the austerity measures come into place. So if we're telling Greece they cannot invest, they have to save and cut and cut, then it's not going to work.
On migration, do you see the migration process moving forward, stalling, or going backwards?
Well, policy-wise, I think we're really going backwards. We have currently the reform again of the asylum package, let's say, of all the asylum legislation. And this is falling so much behind what we have had already because indeed asylum processes, they need to be swift. That hasn't worked in the member states at all so far. They need to be fair. Also, that hasn't really worked in most member states. And they need to be comprehensible as well and comparable, and that hasn't worked so far. And now we're putting more and more restrictions, but not on member states to do their job properly, but on the refugees themselves. And I think that is very worrying. And also with Dublin, so where the system that says where a refugee has to apply for asylum, so far that's basically the outer member states at the border. And this is not going to change, even though we have all understood and learned we need to have more solidarity. We can't leave it to Italy, Greece, Spain, Malta, whoever is next alone.
There's really no progress in solidarity
whatsoever.
No,
it's actually stepping back. I mean, the Commission proposal on Dublin actually makes things worse. They really put it into stone that no, it has to be Italy and Greece, and the other member state cannot voluntarily even say anymore, okay, I'm not as such responsible, but I take over that file. No, they have to send.
Do you have sympathy for the Commission on this, or do you think that if you keep repeating the same mantra and proposing essentially the same plan and going nowhere, that that's a matter of incompetence?
I have a tiny bit of sympathy for the Commission there because, of course, they're under huge pressure from the member states, which is a bit ridiculous because the problem obviously is not here in Brussels. It's again in the member states because the Commission has, since the beginning of the so-called crisis, because it's really a reception crisis and it's a humanitarian crisis, the Commission has produced endless proposals. Some of them we supported very much, relocation, for example. Some of them we didn't like so much. But whatever, they have made a lot of proposals. And the member states still complain, nah, it's a Brussels problem and they're not doing anything. And that's not true. So,
do you think that Federica Mogherini and others have settled into a position of nothing's going to happen in the near term and now they're investing in the global strategy, that they're investing in development aid for the long-term solution, knowing that nothing is going to change in the short term?
I think they actually have settled into this idea of we have to prevent migrants from coming, no matter where they are, no matter why they're coming.
Is that so wrong?
It is totally wrong because, of course, what we should do is prevent the reasons for why people have to flee, because no one likes to flee, and we should for example, use our stability instrument, the diplomacy that we have, and even development funds to make sure that people don't have to flee. But what we're currently doing is we're financing transit countries' border control so that people don't leave to the European Union. So we're basically externalizing our border control to somewhere completely else where human rights just an empty term. And we, as the rich continent, European Union, with all the problems we have, we're still very rich, we say, no, sorry, we can't do it. Lebanon, you poor country with huge problems, you have to do it. Turkey, you have to do it. Everyone else, Libya, you have to do it, but we won't.
Our relationship, our continued relationship with Turkey, where we're still paying a lot of money and turning almost a blind eye to the huge human rights travesty that occurs in Turkey?
Well, the money going towards Turkey has just been significantly reduced, but the problem is, of course, not so much the amount, it's from where does it go. For example, I'm very much in favor of supporting the civil society that is there, that is actually looking to us, that is waiting for our help and support. And there we shouldn't, cut the support we're giving them. On the other hand, investing in infrastructure that goes into Erdogan's businesses or AKP's businesses and fulfills his own promises, that we shouldn't do. And I think we have made a lot of mistakes in our relation to Turkey. For many years,
can we fix them?
It's very difficult to fix the mistakes of the past because for many years the problem was that Turkey was actually making a lot of progress, and some member states, again Germany was one of them, said whatever you do we won't have you because you're too Muslim, too big, too whatever. And of course this has given Erdogan a huge argument to say the Europeans, they don't want us, whatever we do, and therefore we have to find our own way, we have to do something else, we have to go away. And now the same member states are saying, oh, but Turkey's turning away from European values.
But do you think that Turkey is compatible with the values of the European Union, or do you think that the European Union has so damaged its values anyway that...
It depends who's Turkey. Erdogan? No. I have so many friends in Turkey, all these activists in civil society who are taking enormous risks to, for example, produce quality journalism, to bring people on the street to, fight for everything from children's rights to refugees' rights to parks, and absolutely yes. So Erdogan is not Turkey. We cannot say, okay, there's Erdogan, that's why we should forget about Turkey. But it's very clear, it doesn't seem like anything is going to change as long as Erdogan is there, unfortunately.
How can Europe's citizens grow in trust for the European Union when they see situations like Catalonia, where there's violence by a member state against a part of its own population, and in Brussels, there's almost silence?
Yeah, I think that's a big problem. That I'm sure we can't from Brussels solve all problems, but I think I would have wished the Commission to at least say, hey, violence is not okay, and also to at least offer a mediation in the whole Catalonia question. And sure, you can't enforce mediation, that's totally clear, but at least to offer, at least to have a clear stance, and that didn't happen, or rather the clear stance was on the opposite. So for me, that was really disappointing.
How did you see this process unfold? The sympathy was largely, European sympathy was largely with, not so much with independence, but with those protesters who were on the street peacefully. Then came the violence, and there was a reaction against that violence, and most Europeans, we could say, were opposed to the violence. Still, they weren't really interested in the independence debate. And do we have a sense that there's a double standard in how we deal with, for example, Poland, where we see the Commission react quickly when it becomes a rule of law issue, and really very slowly when it comes to another member state which has more influence?
I hope not. I also still think there's quite a lot of differences, even though again, as I said, I was quite shocked at how the Commission reacted or not reacted to the violence in Catalonia. But in Poland and in Hungary, we do have a different situation. We have a constant undermining of the rule of law, of civil rights and liberties and all of that. So in Spain, we have basically let's say a one-off, even though of course it's not entirely, situation of unproportionate violence of police against citizens. So I do think the Commission should have said this is not okay, but it's not the same constant undermining of rule of law.
Do you think Puigdemont should have stayed in Catalonia, surrendered to the police there?
Well, it's difficult for me to give advice, but from what I understood is that also one of the arguments that were used to put part of the ministers in jail was that they might flee because there was the example of Puigdemont. So,
do you think he damaged his own party and his own people? Raul Romeva, who was your party colleague here, is in prison.
Exactly.
His leader is here in Brussels. Does that seem right to you?
That's what I was kind of hinting at, that from the perspective of those who are in prison, it was certainly not a nice move for him to stay here. I'm also not sure that helps him a lot in the Catalan debate itself, but voila, he has to figure this out with his own party people.
Do you think Puigdemont damaged the Catalan movement by leaving Catalonia?
Not being a Catalan myself, I did find it a very strange move. I do think it didn't help for himself. Well, maybe for his personal situation, let's say, but not for the overall, his overall political
Maybe it's
movement.
delaying the inevitable also. The austerity process damaged many people's faith in the European process and European progress. And the migration crisis did the same again. And now we have Gothenburg with a touchy-feely approach to social rights and the concrete action still to be seen with that. Is there too little been done to reverse the negative narrative that's damaged Europe so much?
Absolutely. I mean, especially when in terms of austerity, we've seen, well, pretty much a reinforcement of that. It's not being softened at all. I mean, if we look at the recent, well, not so recent anymore, negotiations with Greece, it was just more and more austerity, and no one has learned from the mistakes that have been done, because austerity doesn't solve the problem. Rather, we need to have more investment, but of course investment into the right things, not just streets and coal power plants, for example, but into things that really create good jobs also in the future.
How do you see the leadership style of Europe changing over the next few years, and who would you want to see at the head of the European Commission next time?
I think indeed it looks like there is a lot of movement in leadership of the Commission, not just the Commission, but of Europe in general. And indeed Merkel has, I mean, she can't fulfill that role at the moment. Let's see if she can in a couple of months. But I don't think it's at all bad if we also have other people who are going into that, who bring different perspectives and also more dynamism. Because Merkel, from my point of view, has never been, at the forefront of any sort of progressive change. She has always been on the very conservative end, like pushing for austerity. So I'm very happy if there is some change in that. Unless, of course, we can change her with our green policies, let's see. And also smaller countries, as I said, I think it would be important that they are more visible in that.
And as the head of the Commission, who would you put?
Well, let's see who's there. But I think having a woman there would definitely be a good thing, finally.
Any potential candidates?
That I would like to see there? No, I'm not sure yet who's all in the talk. I mean, there's some names running around, and I'm sure the Greens will also, of course, put someone forward. So, of course, we're for the Green one. But I do think that we need someone who's, I mean, again, a woman would be really good because, well, it's time for that. There was always an issue. Gender equality in the Commission overall has never been achieved, and I think it's finally time that we moved forwards.
Finally, one other question. What are you reading at the moment?
Reading,
yeah.
Book-wise.
Yeah.
I'm reading the new book of Anne Leckie. I don't know if you've heard about her. She's a great sci-fi writer.
I didn't take her for a sci-fi reader, actually. What do you like about it?
Her storytelling is always like it's not predictable. You don't know what's going to happen in the end. So that I very much like, and it's not a too simple story, and no, I really like the way how she does it. I
suspect that describes Ska Keller in a way as well. It's not so predictable, and that's what keeps you on the edge. Ska Keller, thank you so much.
Thank you.